Okay, here we go. This is 4 coats. That's where that hole was. You can barely see it. So you can see in there, see those little white dots? Those are air bubbles I couldn't get out. And I think it's because this was flowing through the middle there, out the bottom, and I was holding the bottom with paper towels and duct tape and stuff, and as I pushed it, I was pushing the material back up through, and I think that's where the bubbles came from, as I pushed the bubbles up through from the bottom. I should have just let it flow. And this is what I was worried about. I went to sand the edges, and I sand through the stain. So all those spots, I have to re-stain. And I don't know if the stain is going to discolor or affect the epoxy. Now the epoxy, I've sanded it all down to, with 320, down to 320. And when I reapply, it should shine right back up. It should, 90% sure it will. But what I'm going to do now is I've already flipped it over and cleaned up the bottom. The bottom was a train wreck. I had to use an angle grinder to get most of it off. But the very top surface, I didn't sand through anywhere. So like I said, there's a lot of material on there. I didn't cover the whole thing. I only covered the whole thing twice. 2 of the coats were complete, and then 2 of the coats were I was spotting in these corners and this big hole. I'm gonna leave these cracks like this, and how they end up, that's how they end up. I'm not gonna go back and try to, that's the biggest one, try to fill them. I'm gonna leave it. And however it flows, that'll be the look of it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna flip it over, I'm gonna clean it 8 times, and then I do have my Crocs back on, but it's safe now. I'm going to clean it and clean it and clean it, and then I'm going to restain the bottom. Not that that's a big deal, but it doesn't take anything to do it. So I'm going to restain the bottom and all the edges, and we'll see. I probably won't know until I re-epoxy it whether that stain is going to discolor or affect the epoxy around it. I don't know if you can see, it looks like it's just black, but it's clear. It's just that it's sanded, so it's got a opaque finish on there. You can't really make it out. And you can still see the grain. And it looks pretty, the epoxy is pretty deep. I mean, it looks pretty thick. So one more flood coat after I don't know what I'm going to do with the bottom. I don't want to use, I've already used half of my epoxy. I'm not looking to spend another $100 on epoxy, but I probably will end up, well, in fact, I know I will. By the time I have to do that one, what a mess I got. But who knows? We'll see how this goes. I'm going to flip it over, and I might, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll epoxy the bottom or maybe just polyurethane it just to seal it. I'm not sure. Polyurethane's cheap, and nobody's going to see the bottom, obviously, just the edges. So we'll figure that out as I go. But I'm going to flip it over, figure out what I'm going to do with the bottom, and stain the edges, and then we'll go from there. But I have a lot of time in this, and I didn't really show this one when it started. But this one was way rougher than the round one, and this one was less important to me than the round one, so I wanted to do this one first to see, how it. So I gained a little experience, which I'm glad I did. But I'm definitely not gonna stain the big one. And the reason I can't just sand, I could just restart over and sand it all off, but obviously the stain is down inside all these cracks. I never get it out, so there's no going back with this one. So I will not stain the other one. I'll just epoxy it. I think that'll be way easier. Okay, that's it.